Shock! The US is storming Iran? The American army is ready to strike, the largest armada since Iraq. Putin is losing his main ally. The Kremlin dictator has started World War II. Scandalous warning from Zelensky. The world is preparing. The United States could finally set a face-to-face between Zelensky and Putin. Has a meeting been scheduled yet? The world has shown Ukraine is not alone. The 4th anniversary of the war is being marked worldwide. Strong support leaves no one indifferent. Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today with the latest updates. US ready to strike Iran. Right now, the Middle East is holding its breath amid fears of a possible missile attack. Reports suggest that the United States has significantly reinforced its military presence around Iran, marking one of its largest force deployments in the region in decades. Fighter jets, strategic bombers, and naval strike groups are positioned across key locations. The aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford is reportedly heading toward the eastern Mediterranean. According to various media sources, Washington is weighing decisive options that could be implemented at short notice.
The U.S. armed forces are ready to strike. There is no need to wait for the arrival of the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford. It can be involved in subsequent waves of attacks. The expert believes that President Trump has at least some room for maneuver over the next week and a half.
Speculation is growing that Washington's objectives may extend beyond limited strikes. Analysts suggest potential targets could include facilities linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, underground nuclear infrastructure, and ballistic missile production sites. Some commentators have even raised the possibility of attempts to weaken the ruling establishment in its highest levels. Such moves would signal not just a military operation, but a fundamental effort to reshape Iran's political landscape.
Military action, beyond preventing nuclear weapons, including eliminating the missile threat to Israel, ending Iranian support for Hamas and Hezbollah, and even responding to the repression of protesters inside Iran.
Trump under pressure, no easy way out. The US president has issued stark warnings, demanding that Iran fully halt its nuclear activities or face severe consequences. Experts note that after strong rhetoric and visible military preparation, stepping back could be politically costly. If Washington avoids direct confrontation with Tehran, it may still feel compelled to demonstrate strength elsewhere in the region. Meanwhile, reports indicate internal divisions within the US administration, with some officials urging caution and others advocating immediate action.
Within the Trump administration, two factions have emerged. Vice President J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, head of U.S. intelligence oversight, oppose the strike. Supporting the attack are Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
A major blow to Moscow. Should a large-scale escalation occur and significantly weaken Tehran, it could have ripple effects far beyond the Middle East. Russia relies on strategic cooperation with Iran in several military and economic areas. A destabilized Iran might disrupt arms supplies, joint projects, and sanction evasion channels, potentially complicating Moscow's broader geopolitical strategy. Behind the scenes, diplomatic efforts are reportedly ongoing. International mediators have floated proposals that would limit Iran's uranium enrichment strictly to civilian and medical purposes, while shutting down pathways to weaponization. However, it remains unclear whether Tehran would accept such restrictions after years of investment in its nuclear program. Iranian officials have signaled defiance and heightened military readiness, leaving the region at a crossroads between negotiation and confrontation.
According to sources familiar with the matter, this is an initiative that emerged from the office of Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The Tehran Research Facility, established nearly 60 years ago with American assistance under the Atoms for Peace program, is already producing medical isotopes. Under this framework, Iran could argue that it has not completely given up its right to enrich uranium, while Trump could present a closure of the facilities that enable weapons production.
Zelensky issued strong statement on Donbass. In an interview with BBC, the president of Ukraine addressed Russia's demands to hand over parts of Donetsk, as well as territories in Kherson and Zaporizhia, in exchange for a potential ceasefire. According to Zelensky, the issue goes far beyond mere land.
I don't see this simply as land. I see it as abandoning our people, weakening our positions, leaving hundreds of thousands of our citizens vulnerable. That's how I see it. And I'm certain that this withdrawal would divide our society.
When asked whether such a concession could satisfy Vladimir Putin, Zelensky said it would only give the Kremlin a temporary pause.
He needs a pause. But as soon as he recovers, this could take 3 to 5 years. In my view, he might recover in no more than a couple of years. Where will he go next? We don't know, but the fact is he will want to continue.
Zelensky stressed that Ukraine's victory primarily means stopping the killings and restoring normal life, while also emphasizing that halting Russia has global significance.
Topping Putin today and preventing him from occupying Ukraine is a victory for the whole world. Because Putin will not stop at Ukraine.
Zelensky then struck directly at Putin, declaring that the dictator has already started a World War III. According to him, the world's main task now is to prevent it from escalating into a full-scale global conflict. Zelensky noted that he sees the situation differently than some Western leaders who have expressed concern over potential nuclear threats from Moscow.
I believe Putin has already started it. The question is only how much territory he can capture and how to stop him.
The head of state emphasized that Russia seeks to impose a different way of life on the world and to alter the conditions people have chosen for themselves. For this reason, according to Zelensky, resistance must be as decisive as possible. He underlined that stopping Putin is only possible through intensive military and economic pressure that prevents Moscow from expanding its aggression. The United States is preparing a possible meeting between Zelensky and Putin. Witkoff has outlined potential timelines. The U.S. Special Envoy expects positive news regarding Ukraine and Russia in the coming weeks. In an interview with Fox News, President Trump's special envoy stated that the proposal he and Jared Kushner brought forward could lead to a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
It could possibly be a trilateral meeting involving President Trump. We'll see. He does not want to meet unless he is confident he can achieve a result. He has a unique ability to do that. I hope you will hear good news within the next 3 weeks.
According to Witkoff, the war continues due to territorial disputes, and the sides have not yet reached consensus. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas expressed skepticism regarding the envoy's optimism.
I do not share this optimism because negotiators on the Russian side are not truly serious and are unwilling to discuss political issues. We have seen significant pressure on Ukraine to concede and give up what it is not prepared to give up, but that will not bring lasting peace. Therefore, I am not optimistic that we will see results in the coming weeks or months.
She added that EU foreign ministers will discuss the issues that Europe should raise with Russia in the context of ongoing peace negotiations.
Pressure has so far been applied to Ukraine when it comes to peace talks, but it is clear that it must also be applied to Russia, because it is the aggressor in this war. And if we want this war to end and not continue, we also need to see concessions from the Russian side.
When asked whether the EU has determined who will have the mandate to negotiate with Russia on its behalf, she replied, "More important than who talks to Russia is what we want to discuss with them." According to her, it is essential to ensure that whoever conducts the negotiation with Russia, whether on a bilateral basis or as a representative of Europe, must ask what Russia is willing to concede.
If you ask for a lot, you get little. If you ask for little, you get nothing. And if you ask for nothing, you pay on top.
How events will unfold remains to be seen. We continue to monitor the situation. The Council of Europe marks the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A comprehensive program of official events has been prepared in Strasbourg, aimed at demonstrating the unwavering unity of European countries in supporting the Ukrainian people and condemning the actions of the aggressor. A key event in the diplomatic bloc is a special meeting of the Committee of Ministers at the ambassadorial level. Participants are focused on examining the consequences of Russian aggression, and the results are formalized in an official decision by the organization. The ceremonial part of the commemoration, honoring the victims of war and recognizing the resilience of Ukrainians, is taking place on February 25th in the square in front of the Palace of Europe. During the ceremony, the national anthems of Ukraine and Europe are played, symbolizing the shared future of Ukraine within the European family. From Paris to Seoul, the world showed support for Ukraine on the invasion anniversary. On the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, thousands of people took to the streets in dozens of cities worldwide to show solidarity with Ukraine. Flags, posters with photos of abducted children, prayers, speeches, and marches took place across Europe, North America, and Asia, reminding the world that the war continues and support for Ukraine remains critical. In Paris, thousands gathered in the city center to show support for Ukrainian resistance, waving Ukrainian, French, and European flags. Participants held posters calling for a just peace and displaying images of children abducted by Russia. Canadian politicians, including Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Mayor Olivia Cho, joined the demonstration. Also present were the General Consuls of Ireland, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Poland, and Romania, giving the event additional significance. In Washington, the demonstration was held near the Lincoln Memorial organized by the Ukrainian Embassy in the U.S. Speakers included the EU ambassador to the U.S., Jovita Nelupsene, Pastor Mark Burns, Ukrainian veteran Andriy Smolensky, and the head of the National Coalition for Eurasian Jewry, Mark Levin. In Budapest, a solidarity march took place ahead of the anniversary. People paraded through the central streets with flags and posters showing that despite Hungary's complex political context, support for Ukraine remains alive. In Luxembourg, about 1,000 people gathered in a square. Candles were lit, the Ukrainian anthem was sung, and a moment of silence honored the fallen. In Rome, hundreds gathered in Piazza San Giovanni. The event concluded with a smoke display in blue and yellow, with the Ukrainian community reminding that the war continues and Europe cannot afford to grow weary. In Amsterdam's Dam Square, participants held mirrored signs reading "This is who we protect." In Prague, thousands joined the Together for Ukraine rally, with organizers estimating around 8,000 attendees at the Old Town Square. Czech President Petr Pavel addressed participants, urging continued support for Ukraine. He stressed that the Czech government must keep aiding Kyiv until the end of the war. "We must support Ukraine until the very end of the war," Pavel said. Ukrainians in Seoul also marched in support of their homeland, parading under the blue and yellow flags in the city center. Even thousands of kilometers from home, people continue to remind the world that the war is not over. From Paris to Seoul, from Toronto to Rome, people took to the streets to convey a simple message: Ukraine is not alone. 4 years of full-scale war have changed the world, but these marches show that solidarity remains alive. Ukraine resists, but it still needs our support, echoed in many languages across numerous cities. What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video and subscribe to stay informed about the main headlines. See you soon!